Justin A.W. Blair here. I'm a writer, I'm a painter, and I make some videos for the amusement of all and sundry upon the information superhighway, primarily talking about fantasy, science fiction, the past, the present, and sometimes the future, books in the genre. And I like to just hang out, you know what I'm saying? Can a man just relax in some cut off t-shirts? You know, I don't have any sleeves in my shirt. I'm sure you've noticed that by now. Can I just relax and sit and have a discussion, a chat, a little fireside chat about Flamesong by M.A.R. Barker, the second book in the Tekumel or Empire of the Petal Throne series. By the time you're viewing this, I'm sure I will have released my other video on the first book, Man of Gold. Perhaps I'll edit in a little link here. I see the kids on the internet do this thing where they point up and then someone edits that in like a link to the video. Maybe I'll do that. Possibly not. Can a man just relax? That's really the question of this video. Can a man just relax, lay back, have a little discussion? Okay, so you're going to want to watch the Man of Gold video before you watch this for sure. I'm not going to get into the details of this book a great deal. I'm going to tell you a little story though, and a story which some of you may have heard before. That is that I was at a library sale. I picked up the Man of Gold paperback. Thought cool cover, retro art, fantasy from the 80s. I know nothing about this. Let's check it out. Looked it up, read it. Did I enjoy it? Did I not enjoy it? You'll have to go check out the video to see. I don't like long commercials in the middle of a YouTube video, so I'll get to the point quick. My own novel, written by me, Justin A.W. Blair, entitled The Haunt on the Island of Esmer, is out, available on Amazon. You can buy it in ebook or paperback format. It is inspired by Malazan, A Song of Ice and Fire, and The Black Company. Epic novels in that vein. Take a moment, check it out. I wasn't really planning on continuing to read it. That might give you a bit of a clue about my feelings on the Man of Gold. Bit of a clue, but not the whole story. But I thought, let's continue to explore this series, and I went on eBay late at night, as you know that I do. I got on my porch, I had myself a little bit of tobacco, perhaps a little bit of an alcoholic beverage, and I get on eBay and my fingers start to dancing around, buying old paperbacks. For some reason, I decided to buy Flamesong by M.A.R. Barker. Again, retro art, I like it. This is a guy with a life story, which I'm not going to rehearse right now. From Minnesota or Wisconsin. He's from somewhere up there in crazy Yankee space. That's what I call it, because the people of Minnesota and Wisconsin, there's some other state nearby, Milwaukee. That's not a state, is it? See, it's a strange land of enchantment. It's such a land of enchantment. I'm not even sure if Milwaukee is a state or a city, and I'm pretty good at geography. But there's those states up there, they border the Great Lakes, mystery and fog and ice and insanity. I believe I've known a few people from that area, insane people. M.A.R. Barker, count him among them. I'm not going to say he's insane. He's a white guy Muslim. It's a thing. It's a subtype. It's an archetype. But that's his deal. A scholar, for sure. A scholar of languages, I believe primarily of South Asia. Why do I say all this? Because it matters. With a little bit of background and understanding of M.A.R. Barker, you can understand the problems and the high points of this book and of the book Man of Gold. He's a linguist first and foremost, but professionally. Then he created a tabletop role-playing game, roughly at the same time that Dungeons & Dragons was created in the mid-1970s. This is after a lifetime, my understanding, he began conjuring up in his mind this world of Tekumel since he was a child, and he made this board game and he wrote these novels. Now, one problem with these novels, which I will warn you about, is that, and I didn't realize this until after I'd bought Flamesong, the first two came out in the 80s, I believe. I can look for you exactly when Flamesong came out. I'm pretty sure it was 85-ish. This is 85 too, so maybe Man of Gold was a little bit earlier than that. And then he did continue the series, I guess. There's a third and fourth and fifth book, I believe, but they're outrageously expensive. I think they're very rare. So if you happen upon any of those, I'll give you my P.O. Box number. Message me. You can send them to me, and I'll read them then, but I'm not going to probably delve any further into these books. Is it solely because of the cost? No. While I may be on screen in tatters, I'm not a man without some means to buy literature, limited as it may be at any given time. No, I'm not going to buy it because I did not enjoy this book at all. It's a strange mental space I was in, though, while I was reading it. I would read one chapter at a time, sometimes two, but no more. Certain books just flow like that, don't they? And it tells you something about it. Some books you want to read straight through. Can't wait. Start reading, you read. Other books are painful, and it's, a few pages at a time. What Barker does do well in this book structurally, before I get into what is wrong with it, the chapter lengths, and this is the same thing with the Man of Gold, chapter lengths are perfect for keeping you moving. And there's something in the plotting of the way he does the chapters and how he condenses the action within each chapter. There's something in that is related to, I believe, a scenario in tabletop gaming. Now, I'm not a tabletop role-playing gamer, but this is my instinct. There's something here. It's almost like each chapter is kind of a little quest. It has a very distinct beginning and end. And it's usually, in Flamesong here, usually a battle or a lengthy conversation that's going to move along the plot. He does that really well, though. Chapter length, perfect. The main problem here, the main issue is, can you overworld build? And yes, you can. You absolutely can. Now, it's not overly done for his game, which I've never played again. In fact, I would imagine that even through the novels, I can see how this would be a really fun game to potentially play, because the world is vast. Now, it is an actual entire world, and it's not just a secondary world. It is a world in space. Sorry, there's spoilers, I guess, here, for if you're concerned about that. Tekumel is, so this is written as a fantasy, but it is a certain type of fantasy, which is that it's actually science fiction, but the fact that it's science fiction is mainly obscured, but sometimes hinted at, or sometimes obviously apparent. But the feel and the conceit is medieval fantasy, though this is not a Western medieval fantasy. This is a lot more to do with Asia. Is a blend of India, Pakistan, China, and I see other people say as a blend of Mesoamerica. I don't see that quite as much, as a little bit there. So in terms of world building for his game, and if you enjoyed the game and then came to this novel, I think you would be extraordinarily pleased. So this book is for those, probably very small amount of people, who play the board game and have not read the books. There's a myriad of ways in which you can overworld build your fantasy. One of the ways here, which actually is pretty rare, but because he was a linguist, or at least a language expert, it's so richly done, and he published at least one, I think two other like reference books, semi-dictionaries about the made-up languages which he used in this book as separate books. It's amazing, really an amazing work. And it certainly gives you, it rings, a bell there for many who know that Tolkien also built up his world from the foundation of language up. The problem here is actually pretty simple. The basis for his language is South Asian, I'm pretty sure. I would guess, in grammar and structure. Now, this is a guess. This is instinct. Again, we go on instinct. You're listening to a man in short shirt sleeves. I run on instinct, people. What I will tell you is, as many of you know, some have called me in the past the wordy bird. I have an instinct for words. The problem is, in this book, because he uses so many foreign terms in his, I don't want to say made up language, that makes it sound bad, his creation of language, it's obscured to us, not just because of that, because that could work, but because the language itself is foreign to an English language reader. The constructed language itself rings more towards the east than the west, whereas in Tolkien, the constructed language, or a lot of it anyway, even that which was constructed, seemed to have at least a Norse background, right? Which, as an English speaker, we're going to get hints of understanding, insofar as that English has two primary parents, the Romance languages, but also the Germanic languages, one of which is Norse, right? I think so. I'm no linguist. That's my feel. So the problem is he overdid the world building in a very specific sense, in the sense that it makes it difficult to grasp some of this because of how intricately he created it. It's like a downside of his actual technical acumen in creating this language, I think. The simple fact of what it does is, and I'm just going to admit it right here, I couldn't keep track of who is who. I read this entire book and I'm like, this guy, I think this is, most of the cast in the book are soldiers. So I was like, okay, that soldier guy that's in charge, kind of, and that's another soldier guy that's not in charge and has a personality, but I'm not sure, his name evades me. I can't keep track of anybody. And this is soldier girl, and this is the girl with the soldier girl, but the names were so obscure that I could never really latch onto it and even understand what character was what. That's a problem. Am I a stupid man? Look at me. Do you think I'm a stupid man? Do you think I'm a stupid reader? A bad reader? I don't think so. I'm not. Read a lot of books. I can keep track of names. Had a problem with this one. Sure. Might have had a couple beers before I drank most of the chapters as I was going to sleep to get me through Flamesong. So, take that as you will. The other problem is this. The culture is so foreign. And again, these are created cultures, right? They're supposed to be foreign. In fact, the strangeness, the otherness of an invented culture is part of the reason we read fantasy and science fiction. However, and here is a problem, and this is something that writers should pay attention to. There must be correspondences. I keep using this word ringing, chiming. It has to rhyme with our own culture, or at least one of the historic cultures which an English language reader would be familiar with, let's say the medieval cultures of Europe. It has to ring a little bit with that for us to feel any sense that we are submerged in the world. Okay, not any sense, but it is more difficult when you've created this melange of Mesoamerican, South Asian cultures on a faraway planet trapped in a time hole or something, whatever the ultimate plan of Tekumel is, which I actually don't know, but I kind of understand. It feels so foreign to me. The cultures feel so foreign that I can't really embrace the characters that much. I just can't. It's a kind of grotesque world of violence. There's a lot of impalings, and they talk about impalings a lot here. That's gross. I don't like that. I don't really want to hear about impalings all that much. It happens. It happened in Eastern Europe. Old Vlad Tepes, they knew him. The Turks knew him as the impaler. I think that it happened in other cultures in the past also. Impaling, no good. A lot of that in Flamesong. It's a little foreign, Crucifixion, a little more Western. I kind of get that. Rome, we got crucifying stuff going on there. No good either. Gross. Don't like it. But I can kind of understand that as a form of punishment from a empire, which is what the impaling thing is about in this book. Anyway, I'm anti-impaling. I just like you to know that. The final thing about world building here is that, well, this is really complicated. So many things are proper nouns. I'm going to leave a large discussion on this topic because it's something I've gone back and forth with on some forums with other writers talking about. And it's going to take an entire video if I ever do it. Okay, let's take the word Tekumel itself, right? And I don't know the answer to this, but any word will work. Tekumel is the proper name of this planet. Now, that's only going to be the proper name of this planet for one of or a few of the cultures which use the same language or a language derivative of that language to speak of what we would call for ourselves Earth, right? The planet. Now, so there is the word Tekumel. It means something to certain cultures in this book, right? Let's make an analogy. If you're an English speaker, you say Earth. Right? Unless you're a hippie and you say Gaia or something. I'm trying to think of another language where, okay, so the French would say le monde, right? There's different words for Earth. That may be a bad example. Because the French may actually have a similar word for specifically the Earth. This gets very complicated, and that's why I'm going to do it in a different video. But the point is that there are decisions to be made about how to name places in a secondary world, and this gets very, very complicated, overly complicated, primarily complicated for the writer himself. But the way it's handled here is not bad, it's just complex. And only being 2 books into the series, I feel like I need to have like an instruction manual for the game to understand all the lore which is being referenced in the novels, as opposed to oftentimes you would think you would get the lore from the novels, which would then make its way into the game. But I believe that's inverted in this scenario, old Barker's scenario. Okay, so a few points of why this is a difficult book to read. That being said, the vastness of the world itself, and partially due to one of the plot points, which is that the main cast, that there are 2 kind of plots with 2 casts of, say, roughly half a dozen to a dozen characters each that we follow. We get a sense of the vastness and the alienness and strangeness of the world, not just to us as a reader, but also to the characters themselves in this world via a plot device, which is, I found extremely enjoyable. They stumble upon essentially a kind of monorail system, basically. Like it's a monorail, I think. It's not just a train. It's a, you know what a monorail is, right? Okay, I'm not going to explain it. It's something similar to that. They don't exactly understand what they're in, because remember, the people at this point in time in the book are in basically medievalish scientific standards. They know that the ancient peoples, which they have, again, like a lot of different names for, so it's hard to actually keep track of. They know they had essentially advanced technology, but to them, they kind of know it's technology, but they also kind of see it as magic. They end up getting transported on this monorail. They don't know how to operate it. They kind of vaguely figure it out. And it takes them automatically to these stops, which is essentially a large part of their journey throughout the book. It's fun. It actually is fun. And it provides for, because they themselves don't know where they're going, a certain amount of tension, fantastic adventure, and excitement. And that does come through, and it's a really nice touch for this book. It's not bad. Why is it called Flamesong? I'm not going to give that away, the plot spoiler. I will say the reason it's called that and the ultimate conclusion of the character, which exemplifies that, didn't quite work for me. It doesn't really come up until the very end of the book. It is an analog to what the Man of Gold was in the first book, but I'll leave that for any of those of you who would actually like to read this. Which, it's worth, look, as a study of a very peculiar author with a extraordinary and peculiar design for his life's work, this is unique. It is a unique book, along with The Man of Gold. It's not going to be for everybody. It's not necessarily for me, and I doubt I'll ever be able to read the rest of it, nor am I particularly motivated to do so. I feel like I could read all 5 books and I would still probably be lost within each individual. And I have this feeling, because there's very little reference that I could gather from the second book to the first. There's no continuity there. Also, there is a publishing problem. It's not really a problem, but the first 2 books were published in the 80s, and I believe the other books didn't come out until the early 2000s. So that also scares me off just a bit. That's where I'm going to leave it with Flamesong. It feels real. The world feels very real, but it feels foreign. And it does prevent me as a reader anyway from fully embracing the characters, putting myself in their slippers or shoes or boots or whatnot. It's hard to get into it in that sense. It's brilliant in the sense that he seems very consistent in the creation of these multiple different cultures, and there are also totally alien species on the planet also, and they're interesting. It truly is. There are aliens that essentially can kind of bend time and space and move through portals, and there's other aliens that they're the ones that are on this cover here. They're kind of like mantis looking guys with swords or whatever. They stumble upon them on the monorail adventure. There's a lot here, and so many times, of course, I start to record, I'm a little bit down on work, and I talk about it. Just being casual, hanging out, talking about some fantasy with the boys, and maybe the one girl that watches this YouTube channel. Don't know. Maybe 2. Never know. What ends up happening is I do these videos and I talk through it. And I think, okay, there are things I like about this. As I talk about it, is that a bad sign that you don't feel that you like those things as much while you're reading it? Perhaps. But I read it in a relatively quick amount of time. It didn't bog me down too much. I think I did stop somewhere in the middle for a while and then continued on, but not bad. This wasn't a slog, primarily because he's an expert at pacing in terms of chapter length. That's what I have on Flamesong. Hey, listen. If you're from Minnesota, if you're from Wisconsin, and you're out there bathing in the frosty Great Lakes, just know that I care about you. Don't go crazy. Don't go crazy, people up there. Don't do it. Too many people fall into a Minnesota winter. I don't like to see it. But anyway, all that being said, Justin A.W. Blair, I'd like you to do whatever you want. Like, subscribe, comment, leave me comments. I primarily get nice comments, occasionally get a rude comment, bounces off of me. Been on the internet a long time, not a big deal. Leave me a comment, ask a question, send me some, contact me, send me the rest of the series, and perhaps I'll actually read it. Probably not. We'll see. We'll make a deal. Justin A.W. Blair, until next time.